Hello, human peoples. You're listening to the podcast network of Gamefully Unemployed. To support us and gain access to great exclusive podcasts like Fox Mulder is a Maniac, Tom and Jeff Watch Batman, Star Trek The Next Futurama, and our latest show, Spiel Boys, head over to patreon.com/gamefullyunemployed. We do game streaming, movie nights with our patrons every Friday night, and you can even commission your own podcast about anything you want. Literally anything, within reason, and we have to do it. You are quite frankly out of excuses not to go visit patreon.com/gamefullyunemployed. That's patreon.com/GAMEFULLY unemployed, which is spelled like it sounds.
Making man noises from my mouth.
Mm-hmm.
Very gassy.
That's how you know you're a man.
Yeah, exactly. Hi, everybody.
Hello, everyone. Men are very gassy.
Yeah, and they got mustaches.
Yep.
Like
which are
Stacey
also
Keach.
gassy.
Yeah. Gas
like
stashes. The Keachin. Oh, my name is David Bell.
My name is Tom Ryman.
And we just watched Road Games.
Road Games.
2 words, not 1 word.
Depends.
I know.
It's 1 word in the title card.
Yep, but it's 2 words on IMDb. So who do we trust? Who do we trust?
The truck driver plays games. The hitchhiker plays games.
Aren't you kind of young to be hitchhiking out here all by yourself?
Aren't you kind of old to be picking me up?
And a killer is playing the deadliest game of all.
We can't even trust ourselves, just like in Road Games.
Yeah, just like in Road Games. We can't even trust our own eyes.
Big old thank you to yet another Steven, our producer, who had us watch Road Games, the 1982?
81?
81? It's, this is a movie.
It is. It's an Australian movie.
It's an Australian movie starring Stacey Keach and Jamie Lee Curtis. Jamie Lee Curtis is she's fresh off The Fog. So she's like in her 20s, 24, 23.
Yeah, Foggy Curtis.
Keach. Yep. Stacey Keach is in his 40s. He's hunkier than I thought he was going to be.
He's pretty dreamy.
Right. I haven't seen much young Stacey Keach.
Young Keach is terrifying in a quiet way.
Yeah. This is a movie about a truck driver who picks up a hitchhiker and is also suspecting another car, a van, as a serial killer.
Another motorist he keeps seeing he's convinced is this serial killer that's been on the radio lately. And it's kind of neat where it's like he himself might be the serial killer. You're not sure.
Yeah. Tom, I liked this movie.
I thought this movie was pretty good.
This is a good movie.
It was, yeah.
I didn't think it was gonna be.
No, I had no idea. Because I had never heard of it before. No idea what it was.
Right.
Nothing at all, knowing nothing at all about it, just going in completely blind. This is a good, suspense thriller.
Yeah. Again, thank you.
It's a little Hitchcock in spots.
So I was talking to the Some More News director, Will, today, who had also seen and liked this movie. But he sort of identified for me why this movie probably isn't a classic, but it is good. This is legitimately the filmmaking is good.
Yeah,
it's like there are shots in this. This is the same year as Evil Dead, and it does the 360-degree shot.
Yeah, more than once.
More than once. It does opening murder.
That murder is, oh man.
This
movie is so eerie.
Yes. It's this lady playing guitar in this room that's all red in the hotel room, and then they keep cutting to this sterile white light and this guy preparing a piano wire. And then it shows you can see the white light under the bathroom door, and you realize, okay, he's in the bathroom. And she's just tuning the guitar as he approaches her, and then he slowly brings down the piano wire, and they get this shot of her eyes as it passes her eyes. and there's no music, and then he like pulls and it just cuts to trash bins in the morning falling down, and it's like you watch it and you're like, that was really well done.
Yeah.
For the lighting, the sound, the editing,
Yeah.
it's all really good.
Like that's like the first. Yeah, that's the first like inkling that you get. It's like, oh, okay, this might like be really good.
Right.
Because
But
like
shout out
it starts out fine. Like it's just Stacy Keach talking to his dog, talking to his dingo.
Dingo, yeah. Or is it? But shout
right,
out to
yeah.
Will, because Will points out that the ending is very like, this is a PG film, and the ending feels very, as he put it, I'm going to use his word, Scooby-Doo, where it sort of ends with like,
It is pretty Scooby Doo, yeah.
yeah, because the whole movie has this intrigue to it of like you said, did he do it? At a certain
It's like
point, I was
noirish.
like, yeah, at a certain point, I wrote, I genuinely don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was pretty, man, yeah, absolutely. Like I went back and forth. But then by like toward the end of the movie, like in the last like 15 or 20 minutes, I was also like, I really don't know. I have no
Yeah.
idea whether or not he's going to like at that point I was thinking, I was leaning toward, oh shit, maybe he is the killer.
Right, because they introduce all these little things. So Stacy Keach is on the road. He's his own podcast because it's the 80s. And they show him immediately like making up stories for the people on the road. And like talking to himself and like talking to his dog rather, I guess.
Yeah.
And you know, like he sees like a little kid with his face painted in the car, and like sees a guy and a woman, and like decides like, oh, he's like what, an accountant or something, and like he's just making up stories, and so then he makes up a story essentially for this green van that matches the fact that there's a serial killer on the loose. So like when you start thinking about it, and he says it at certain points where it's like, what do you really know about this guy? And because it comes up a few times where you're like, yeah, he doesn't really have evidence that this guy's a murderer. He saw him checking the trash in the morning, which was creepy. He saw him burying something, which is creepy.
Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah.
Out in the middle of nowhere, out in the desert.
But he's sort of like, okay, well, he's just on the road. He's talking to himself. But by the end, we start hearing, like, they start doing his internal monologue, Stacy Keach's, where it's like, it's conflicting monologues. Like, he's his thoughts.
He's
are, like,
arguing with
replying to
himself.
him.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so it's little things like that like, ramp up where you go, like, oh, the things at first that were, like, innocent, you know, he's
Right,
a poor
yeah.
truck driver on the road,
Yeah,
start getting weird.
Yeah, because at first it just comes across as really charming and kind of fun. Like you're not sure what kind. Like I genuinely had no idea what kind of movie it was going to be.
Yeah.
Like truly,
playing
I had
harmonica and
truly
classical
no idea. I
music.
didn't know the genre. Like I was sitting down, and it kind of seems like it's going to be kind of like a weird comedy at first.
Right.
Because he's just kind of like, he's saying a lot of non sequiturs, but he's being pretty charming, and he has this dog companion, and like I was like, oh, I guess this is going to be the movie. But yeah, as you were saying, like as the movie progresses, like it starts becoming, it starts feeling more unhinged, and then becoming a little bit more unhinged.
Right. And it thematically sets stuff up in a very artistic way that, like, for example, he passes by Jamie Lee Curtis twice before picking her up. And both times you don't see her face. It's the same shot of him almost blowing her hat off. And people comment on her, like other people. But when he picks her up, like, it occurred to me, like, we haven't seen her face until now. What if this is not... What if he's making her up? What if this is imaginary? Like, what if there's so many little things of, like, showing these little patterns and, like, where you start doubting him more and more, and there's like little thematic reasons why, a little paranoia setting in the filmmaking itself, that kind of slowly puts you at unease as it goes.
Yeah, it starts getting really weird, like the brake lights lining up with his eyes. Just a sudden, like almost like the Exorcist shot of just like that dude's eyes. Yes.
That's it's fucking freaky.
It just kind of flashes in Stacy Keach's point of view as he's like chasing. He starts like obsessively chasing this guy to the point of like self-destruction.
Right. He also says stuff early like, just because I drive a truck doesn't make me a truck driver. He says
Right.
several times. And what he's trying to say is like, I'm better than that or something like that. But it was little seeds planted where you're like, wait, is he not a truck driver? Like where they're like, they really started pushing towards the idea of like, oh, this guy is something else. The 360 shots, things like that, to show like this general paranoia and this, again, slow mood ramping up. So it's almost disappointing where, spoilers, the ending is, no, he was right. That guy was a serial killer. And he had Jamie Lee Curtis in his car.
It's a weird ending anyway. Like, it feels like it's a mad world at the end there.
Yeah.
Like, he's chased the van down like through the city streets and into this alley. He's chasing him in his big rig, so he's gotten stuck, and he's just stomping on the gas because he's caught both on the walls on either side and then also on like this wooden structure above him. And then there's a cop underneath the car who's wrapped up in wire. And the van's in front of him, and then he finally busts through it, and he just comes down on top of the van. It's like a weird setup for the finale to this movie. What the movie was up until that point.
Yeah, I think so too. It almost feels like there was an original ending or something. But it also, at the same time, I was genuinely surprised that it was a killer, because at that point they were pointing so hard at Stacey Keach.
At that point, I was ready to believe.
Yeah. It's which again, very, I don't know.
Yeah, normally that's the like most eye-rolling type of thriller to me. It's like, oh, it was really them the whole time. You know, like the high tension thing.
High tension. If this feels like a high tension, but it felt like it could have gone in some weird places. Like what Jamie Lee Curtis is could have been an interesting idea or something like that. Like if there was more to it than simply he's the murderer. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know. There's some very interesting like dynamics to her as well. And again, the meat truck too. They introduced the idea that he drives a meat truck, and you don't think about it. And then there's a great scene, a really creepy scene, where he goes in the back of the meat truck because he hears the thing banging, and he's going through, and it occurs to him that there's too many bodies.
Yep.
And since the meat is all like, it's all down to the bone and muscle and fat, where it's like, could these be human bodies? Like that moment of like, could he be killing people and putting them in the meat truck? Is that what's going on?
Yeah, when he gets questioned by the police, we learn that this murderer has kind of been in the exact same areas of Australia that he's been in. And we learn it's because that dude works for the meatpacking plant. Or the meatpacking company, and like just Stacey Keach has been hauling meat for this company, so it's just a coincidence. But they're really laying it on like thick.
Well, it feels
at that
like they're trying to explore something here that I like. I don't know. I felt like they could have explored it more. So like for people who haven't seen this movie, I guess we're not explaining it fully, but it's he's basically is like, he doesn't pick up hitchhikers. He's following this person, and for like a good 30 minutes, it's kind of fun and games.
Yeah, he's just goofing off.
Right. I love that woman who puts a bunch of fucking like paper lace or something in
toilet
the road.
paper.
It's pink.
Yeah.
And this is Australian outback the whole time. And so he has to stop because it's in the road, and then she uses it, just hop in his truck.
Yep.
And the idea is she's a little weird, a little quirky. I liked her, but he brings her to a roadhouse, but in that time he starts slowly obsessing over this idea that this guy's a killer, and she's getting weirded out. And then we learn that she seems to have some sort of issues with the cops. Like her thing, like she gets out of the truck and runs to a cliff, and he accidentally corners her, and she's basically like, I don't want to deal with cops. Like, we didn't see anything. And there's this idea of like this guy being able to kill people without anybody really talking about it. Like when he goes to the roadhouse, nobody really wants to help him. The cops don't really want to help him. That like there's a very Australian moment where he's talking on the phone and he goes, "Listen, I'm a truck driver," and there's a pause and he goes, "Right, truckie." And I'm like, is that what they called them there?
Of course it is.
Come on, guys.
They
Come
could
on,
they could be lying
Australia.
to us. They could just be pranking us with that one.
Maybe.
Yeah, it's telling me call them truckies.
Yeah. It's like, you don't have to call everything what a child would call something, for the love of God. But like he can't, like the cops don't really care.
He's going all stabsies.
He's going all stepsies. It reminds me of fucking Bob's Burgers has a New Zealand character who's like, who has chest hairs, and he's like, "You want me to twist you off a chesty?" And it's just like, yeah, everything, and then everything with IE. That's, yeah, Australian or New Zealand apparently.
Yeah, that's
Anyway.
oh gosh, I forget his name, but Rhys Darby. Anyway,
Oh, okay, yeah. Oh yeah, he is. I think he is doing the voice there.
yeah,
Anyway, fucking Australians. So like, there's this feeling like of indifference, right? The roadhouse, no one cares.
Yeah,
they're like, we're gonna shoot your dingo because there's no fucking dingoes allowed here,
it's like the law. They have to shoot dingoes.
right? And so it's this idea of like, a person can get lost in this world in the outback.
Yeah,
in these
he's
long
out
stretches.
in the middle of nowhere, and it's like it's just everything seems vaguely hostile. It's kind of like Rear Window in a truck.
Yeah. Yeah, the vibes are like everybody's kind of off. So maybe it's him
everything
who's off.
seems weird.
And so like that's the first part, is basically like,
Right, so that's what makes you start doubting what he's seeing and what right, like that's what makes you initially start doubting him as a narrator.
right. And then there's this, then he picks up Jamie Lee Curtis, and I thought there's another really great beat in this. One thing about this movie that's good is that Stacy Keach and Jamie Lee Curtis have great vibes together.
They have great chemistry.
They do. They threaten a romance, but luckily Stacy Keach is like, I'm fucking 40.
blessedly, the Keach was like, I am too old.
Yeah. And the idea is there's something to her. We later learn she's a Harris. That
She's an heiress. Well, she's the daughter of a diplomat,
right. And so she's just like on
and
the
she's
run.
just fucking off. Like,
Yeah. And he
You know.
kind of points out, he's like, there's something off with you. And again, I kept going to like, oh, maybe she's a figment of his imagination. Like
Yeah.
he notes that she dresses not like a hitcher, as he puts it.
and yeah, he keeps calling her Hitch, which was delightful.
Yeah.
Ha 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 ha. Yeah. Well, yeah, and it was also like because he kept seeing her.
Yes.
So, and she's wearing this, like she's wearing the exact same outfit with the hat.
Right.
And it's like, what are the odds that he would keep seeing her further down the road than him? And
Right,
like
and
this
he kinda
great expanse of
justifies it.
nowhere.
He says that young lady's going to get there faster than us, because the idea is she's a young, pretty lady, right? So she's getting picked up.
Right. Yeah. She won't have to wait long for a ride.
And then when he picks her up, they have this conversation that I thought was really good, which was he tells her his theory about the murderer, and then she starts theorizing.
She's
being like,
immediately
"Oh,
into it. Yeah.
yeah, like this is like a precursor to true crime.
I was about to say they're like a
Because-
couple watching a true crime doc.
right, because she's just like, do you think he has sex with him before or after, like stuff like that.
It's like, well, what does that matter? She's like, it matters.
Yeah.
And then he starts using that later as for his sleuthing.
Yes. And so that becomes but it's like this great moment because you realize that, because it's not lost on the movie right away that, or anybody, that he could be a killer. Mm-hmm. He's a guy in another movie. You'd say, well, he's the killer.
Yeah.
And so like it's a scene of this young woman who's the probable victim talking to this older man who's the probable killer in this very like analytical but fun way about the murder victim dynamics. And so like there's a thing there, right, where it's like this lady and this murderer type, a
They're
victim
almost
and
having a
murderer
meta
type on the
conversation.
road.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And so
Reminds me a
again,
little
it
bit
was
of that
another
movie
case.
Freeway.
Yeah. It was another case to like, oh, maybe she's in his head. Maybe she's represents victims in general. Like I thought maybe even the answer wasn't going to be that he's the murderer, but there's still something up, something weird.
Right.
But doing that was just really a cool idea, I thought. But again, ultimately the movie, like, it explores these ideas, but it doesn't. It just goes like, yeah, it's the simplest explanation.
Yeah.
Ultimately.
Yeah. The payoff wasn't great. That's true.
Yeah, because then what happens is he learns that the killer's using his name at the hotel.
Yeah.
Which
is
yeah,
another
like
it's another layer to like, well, is he really the
right,
the
it means he
coincidences
must know him.
start really adding up. And you're like, well, shit, man, this is getting pretty hard to explain.
Yeah. They have to stop for the night. And I love Stacy Keach again. Everything he says, he's like, listen, we have to pull over for the night, not trying to fuck you. Like everything he says, he sort of like adds on the flavor of, okay, listen, not trying to fuck you, but
He's like, he's required. It's after he gets pulled over, apparently. And I don't know if this is the case in the States. It probably is, or I imagine there's something similar. But like, he's required. The cops notice that he's making better time than he should be because apparently he's required to stop for like 12 or stop every 12 hours or something.
That's the other factor is he's starting to lose his mind because of exhaustion.
Yeah,
they
talk about keep
exhaustion
mentioning that
throughout.
he's taking like drugs to stay awake.
Yeah. Yeah, there's all these little things.
Mm-hmm.
Again, where it's like quirky at first, he might be weird. He's
He's also misogynistic.
Yeah.
Like he, as soon as like he keeps when you mentioned earlier that he's making up stories for everybody. Like anytime he thinks like, oh, one of the first things he says is he's watching Jamie Lee Curtis go into the motel. I think it's Jamie Lee Curtis, right?
No, that's the lady.
Oh, it's the other lady, right? He's like,
Yeah.
I almost picked her up. No, that lucky guy. Well, if it serves her right, any Tom, Dick, or Harry, huh?
Right,
like
he does that a few times.
It's one of those incel type things, right? Where it's like you start off by with flattery, and then as soon as a woman is like not interested, you're like, oh, you stupid ugly bitch, like that.
Right.
He's kind of doing that over and over again.
Later, when he thinks she went with him willingly, he goes like, screw her, and then he even justifies and goes like, even if there is a murder, so what? What's it my problem? Like he does what everybody else is kind of doing, where he's going like, I got enough problems. I'm not going to deal with this. But he's justifying, like he feels rejected by her, having been kidnapped. But he overhears
he keeps treating it like a rejection.
Yeah. He overhears
these
couple,
people that
like,
he hasn't interacted with really.
Right.
Anyway.
Oh, yeah, no. And again, he's building all these. He also has a magazine called Grunt magazine.
Yeah, when she's looking
porno.
when she's looking through his reading material.
Yeah.
He speaks in like poetry.
Yeah, he speaks like a real fucking edgelord.
And like you said, he keeps saying, I'm driving a truck, I'm not a truck driver. So it's like you can interpret that as, oh, like he's like some learned dude who's just moonlighting at this. You can interpret it like you did, or he's like, no, I'm not a truck driver. I'm like, I killed the actual truck driver and I stole his truck. Or you can interpret it as just like, he's just this dude trying to be more than that, which is, like putting on what he thinks is the air of sophistication, which is like another tick mark in the serial killer column.
Right. It's so weird because all the things that you slowly like, that they give you slowly start realizing are these signs. Mm-hmm. And it's such a delightful progression that it's actually weird that at the end they take it all back. But
or that it's just so abrupt and simple.
Yes. Yeah, like it feels like there should have been a second arc there, something he realizes about himself Because the idea is ultimately like, yeah, this guy could have been him. He easily, like, he fit the whole profile. And it should be about a guy realizing that about himself, maybe, or something. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know how you end this, but
I don't know. Right, because at a certain point, it's like you start getting more convinced it's him.
well, yeah,
so it
because
goes
at
back
the
the
end,
other way.
it's
I
like
don't know.
what he's doing, like, standing on the gas, like trying to plow his big rig through two buildings to just crush this other car that he's convinced is being driven by a murderer. Like, that's like his obsession is to the max at that point. So you're like, he is just throwing it all away over this
Right.
obsession. So
We almost needed more backstory, like the idea that he has something to prove, like, or like more people finding him creepy, and he's trying to almost prove, like, I'm not the fucking creep, like that, like some
there
sort
was
of weird
there
chip
was
on
a
his
fair
shoulder.
bit of that,
Yeah,
but I felt like, sorry.
no, but like I feel like there's a steady arc that gets undercut otherwise. That it's like he needed a moment, like, if I'm not a murderer. Like, it's almost weird that at the end him and Jamie are like, well, we're pals now. And I'm like, I don't know if I'd go that far with it. Like, it's almost...
That, I don't know, because like
their relationship is almost too simplistic because they just get along. They have like this...
they just vibe. I don't know. Like you're saying,
Yeah.
their chemistry kind of took that over for me. Like, I didn't even think about that until you were saying it just now. So like it didn't feel forced to me that they were like, when she gets out of the sleeping bag, she's like, thanks for finally catching up to me. And the cop's like, well, who kidnapped you? And she's like, well, that one, you dope.
Yeah.
But it just like, because they were vibing so well from the jump that you're just like, I didn't have any problem believing that they were going to be like BFFs.
That's the thing, is it's sort of the ending is, wouldn't it be nice if this happened? Meaning that it's like the ending of the fake ending of Brazil. It's the version where everything gets wrapped up in a happy little bow. And you're like, well, surely that's not really the ending. Like, that's wouldn't it be great if that's the ending? But it is. Like, it's just like it's like, spoilers, the ending of the game, but the ending of the game works because the ending of the game is like, it's doing the same thing, right? Where it's like, it's going all the way back around. And you're like, well, that's a surprise because at this point I simply assumed it was something else.
Right.
And that's sort of where it's
right.
like...
The bigger shock in the game is that it was all innocent.
Right. And that's sort of this shock too, where I was like, so it was all... So that guy was the murderer. It's the Burbs. It's the Burbs.
It's the Burbs. You're right. Yeah.
Yeah. Where the Burbs is like, it seems like they're trying to say a larger thing, and then they're like, never mind.
Totally undermines itself at the end. Yeah, we covered that one too.
We did. And that's a similar ending where it's this, it almost feels like it undercuts it. And so going back at this question of like, yeah, why isn't this that big of a movie? I'm like, I think the ending isn't memorable. Like, I think the ending ultimately...
It's kind of a fart. Yeah, it really is underwhelming for this movie. Like, even though Rear Window comes to the same conclusion, that's like, oh no, he was right the whole time.
Right.
Like, the ending is still crazy suspenseful.
Right.
Because it's like, because you realize he's right, like 60% of the way through the movie.
Right.
So like the rest of the movie is like, okay, he's right. Now what?
Exactly. And character-wise now, what? Right at what cost? The obsession and stuff like that. At what cost?
Right. It's not till like the last 10 minutes that it occurs to Jimmy Stewart that he's in a wheelchair.
Right.
He's like, oh, fuck. That's right.
Shit. I should have...
And this guy just saw which apartment I'm in.
He needs a sniper rifle.
He sure does.
Yeah.
Take out Raymond Burr to take out Perry Mason. Oh, the kids are loving all of my 100-year-old references.
Shout out to the lightning shot in this movie. I thought was genuinely amazing.
Was great. Yeah.
This movie, I looked up the director and I'm like, he should have done way more. Because I didn't really recognize him. The stuff in this, I'm like, this shit's inspired. I want to.
There's some George Miller stuff in it, like the the lightning scene reminded me of the Gremlins segment in the Twilight Zone movie.
Right. Well, Sneezy Rider is in Mad Max. He's a stunt person. That's what he calls a motorcyclist who sneezes in this movie.
Oh,
and he
man.
goes, Sneezy Rider. And that's one of those, I wrote like, okay, movie. All right. Because it's like, that's a pun you made up in the situation.
Yeah.
You wrote, what if a motorcycle guy sneezes and he says Sneezy Rider?
Yeah, that's what Dan Harmon was complaining about with the Ace Ventura
It's
joke.
the Monopoly
What
Man,
if we
yeah.
dress a guy up as the Monopoly Man and Ace says, look at the Monopoly Man?
Yeah.
It's like, yep, what if that happened?
Yeah. It's fine in this, but it
but
was
yeah,
me like, all right.
like,
Very clever movie.
yeah, as much as we've been talking about like the suspense of this movie, there are some like genuinely insane moments.
The boat chase?
The boat, yeah. There's just some other random guy. Some Clark Griswold is on the road who's just irritated that Stacy Keach passed him aggressively earlier. So he tries to like force Stacy Keach off the road while he's chasing the murderer in the van.
There's a lot of like non sequitur where it's like, what
There's
if
a
we
lot
also
of
just have
chaotic
some
people
fun?
in the outback.
Yeah, this movie is an hour and 40, and I could, dare I say, it could be an hour and 30.
Yeah.
Where I'm like, there's a lot of weird little things in this that I'm like,
Dave.
I like some of it ties together. Sneezy Rider comes back.
Sneezy Rider does come back, but speaking of Sneezy Rider, when he tries to steal that motorcycle,
And he realizes that he can't drive a motorcycle.
and then he just immediately crashes it. That's
a
a
Dennis
fucking
Quaid in Jaws
MacGruber
3.
joke. And
Yeah.
that Dennis Quaid in Jaws 3.
Yeah, that's a hell
He
of
just
a...
immediately crashes the motorcycle. I
doesn't know
started
how to ride
laughing so hard.
He's just freaking out everybody at this rest stop. Like,
Right, it's literally a MacGruber joke.
Yeah,
From the Peacock series, not the movie.
right. Oh, but the lightning shot. So, like,
Oh, sorry.
Jamie Lee Curtis, they pull over and she goes out into the darkness.
To have a
and there's
pee-pee,
this-
to have a piss.
Right, and there's this moment of darkness, and then it just flashes the van and the man. And at first, I'm like, I don't know what that was. Is it someone having a dream? And then you hear the lightning, and you go, "Oh shit!"
Yeah.
And so like it's weirdly surreal in the editing, and it's like you realize, oh, the guy in the van is right there, and every time the lightning flashes, you see him. That's what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very simple horror movie trope that somehow the way they do it in this just feels new and fresh. And I think it has to do with a lot of like sound design and the editing and the order. Like it was very like,
It's unexpected.
yeah, and eerie.
Yeah. Like that's the eerie. Like that's the thing that's the word that stuck out of my mind. Like
The only
it's
thing-
creepy. It's a creepy movie.
Right. They do a lot of things where like the pacing is a little off in a way. The bathroom scene with Sneezy Rider is another one where you sort of know what's going to happen. So they find the van and it's unoccupied, and they find someone in the bathroom. And the bathroom's occupied or engaged, as they say in Australia apparently,
Yeah.
because everybody has to be different. I mean, occupied is whatever. They're both dumb. But
Yeah, that's a strange
so
like,
yeah.
Did we get a fucking Terminator to name all these things?
Yeah, what the fuck? So Stacy Keach is basically outside the stall being like, "Hey, fucko,
Right.
we know it's you. We know you're a murderer."
Yeah, and
you're
he's like,
watching
I'll
him-
keep an eye on him. While Jamie Lee Curtis snoops out the van.
Right, and you sort of know what's going to happen, right? The stall's going to open. It's going
And
to
it's
be
not
somebody
gonna,
else,
Right, it's not going to be the guy.
and the van will be gone.
Yep.
But they do it in a very weird pacing where they actually show Jamie Lee going through the van. She looks down, and the guy's lying in a sleeping bag, and that's the reveal. And there's no music. Again, there's no like horror stings or anything. And he sort of like reaches up and they cut.
She gasps.
And then-
Yeah, it's almost the Tom Skerritt death in Alien.
Yeah, you're right. And then they spend time with Keach and the guy in the stall, and it's almost like the suspense now is just like being like, dude, it's not
When
him.
is he going to realize it's not him? Yeah.
Yeah.
You're wasting time. And then there's a
Right.
good amount of the movie where you have no freaking clue if Jamie Lee is murdered, if she ever existed.
Right, because he goes to the van and he hears fucking, and it turns out to be the different
The
just
newlywed
married
couple, yeah.
So he thinks they're fucking, and
I liked that
there's a
everybody
part-
kept coming back, all the cars he saw.
Yeah, I like that too. They were all going in the same general direction. It worked. And then there's a part where he's following the van. He sees them both, and it looks like they're both just talking. And he's like, oh. So it doesn't look like she's not waving out the window. She's not screaming, help me, which the movie never quite explains. I kind of interpret it as like she's probably bound and gagged.
Do we see her, though? I thought we only saw him.
I thought we saw two heads. I could have sworn.
Maybe.
And now I need to watch it again.
Yeah.
And then he looks and he finds like his cooler that he's convinced has body parts in it, and it just has his lunch in it. And
Yeah,
it's
this
that
is
moment,
later at night when the van's pulled off like into the brush.
right? And that's when it's like, oh,
Yeah.
and like she's not around. So again, you're like, oh, is she even around? Was she even existed? So they do these things where like it can go both ways, because it's like, no, what we learn is that she was probably tied up in the van and he couldn't hear her, or maybe he was out he brought her out of the van because he had to take a dump or something. Like, it's all kind of like there's a million reasons it could have been what it was,
Yeah.
and we're sort of just grasping at straws and trying to figure it out.
I guess it could have been a different van, but it's an awful huge coincidence because there's the same color cooler inside.
Right. Did he sneak into the meat truck and put a head in there? Is that what the ending implies?
I think the ending implies that those last two sides of meat were in fact carved up victims.
That he put in there, or that
No, that
Stacy Keach?
The murderer put in there, not Stacy Keach.
Yeah, that's what I mean. The
Yeah.
murderer, because he does. We do get that the murderer went in his truck, and so we know that happened. It was a weird sting at the end because it was almost like it was trying to be like sequel tease almost, but it's like the guy's in jail. So
Yeah, I
like-
think it felt more like little boy Jason popping out of the water at the end, like kind of like a one last scare thing.
yeah.
Because it was just sort of confirming something we already knew.
It's also the only gore in this PG movie.
That's true. Yeah, it's the only violence you see, and you barely see it.
Right. I didn't have an issue with that. It was interesting to watch a movie that felt grisly, that didn't actually show that much violence.
No, it was all very impressionistic and surreal, like you were saying.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. The gloves kind of made the gloves thing made me always, because they show the killer has gloves, right? They never
They're specific.
They never change that.
Yeah, they're specifically gloves you would wear at a meatpacking plant. They're the kind you wear that they're like the
right.
safety ones for
Yeah.
slicing and stuff.
They're strangle gloves. They're strangle
yeah.
gloves. Yeah, I guess that does implicate Stacy Keach, but I was like kind of waiting to be like, when are the gloves are going to clinch it? Without the gloves, I don't know.
Yeah, well, it's interesting to start out with that. Well, I think it was a good idea because they show you the gloves, like you said, preparing the piano wire, and then they show you the gloves pulling aside the curtain the next morning to look down at the trash.
Right.
So they sort of start us off already believing Stacy Keach,
Yeah, you're right.
but then like we don't really see the gloves again after that.
Yeah, until at the very end when he
Yeah.
starts to strangle Stacy Keach.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. There's going back to like the humor. It does feel like, because the dingo arc I really like too, which is that I actually wrote in my notes of the earlier like, oh, look at that little dingo, and then he's like, it is a dingo, and I was like, oh, called it. That's a dingo, apparently. And he's like, dingoes are better. They're quieter. They don't bark. They're smarter. They're cleaner. And then there's constant back and forth with the dingo. And then the punchline is the very end when the cops are arresting him, and dingoes are illegal. it's barking, and they're like, is that
Your dog.
like your dog? And then he's like, no, he barks. And so the realization is it's not illegal after all. He's had either that it's not a dingo or dingoes bark. Either way, he's incorrect, right?
Either way, he's been operating under an assumption that he keeps repeating to us
Right.
the entire movie, and it turns out to be wrong.
And that feels like it's supposed to lead to some sort of arc there, which is like things aren't what they appear.
Yeah.
And it's just interesting that they never really.
Well, it's just because it's so close. It's like less than a minute later, they pull Jamie Lee out and she saves his bacon.
Yeah.
So it doesn't, because it adds a really, really solid, like, additional, like, curveball, like, fuck, I don't know, maybe he is the killer, I don't know. Because he was wrong about this dog the whole time, so that, what does that mean about his obsession?
Again, it is very much the Burbs, because the Burbs also, you needed that moment where they're like, okay, you were right, but,
Yeah.
like you were right, but you weren't, but you kind of weren't at the same time. Like, you kind of like freaked out there or something.
Right, like this is the one time where nearly bringing down 2 buildings, dragging a police officer underneath your big rig, that they might be like, we'll let that one slide.
Right.
You caught
like,
the serial murderer.
Right. And I don't think it's hard, because the other message is like, what does it say about me that people thought I was a murderer? But the thing is that like Stacy Keach, he's not a bad guy in this.
No.
Like you said, he's a bit misogynistic, but he's generally like just kind of a dude.
Yeah, and you're not sure whether it's a front, like if he's trying to convince himself, I guess, until
Right.
the end when you realize he's not the murderer.
Yeah.
Which I think it's such an interesting dynamic. It just depends on, because his performance is the same, the charm is the same. It just depends on the context of it.
As an aside,
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever seen Stacy Keach play like a charmer or like a hunk. Not saying he doesn't. I'm just saying that my era of Stacy Keach has been more like, evil, like an evil oil baron type.
Yeah, real villainous stepdad energy.
Yeah.
He's the stepdad who
Fucking-
hits.
Yeah, or Class of 1999, he's whatever that was.
Right, with his
He's evil Raiden. Yeah, what a maniac performance.
with his hair.
Right, it was weird to see Stacy Keach in this be like, he's like our George Clooney. Like, he's like kind of hunky.
He
he's kinda
was a little
charming, he's kinda
Clooney. Yeah,
funny.
that's true. Good call.
Yeah, he's supposed to be witty. And it's like, it's Stacy Keach. He's the guy that the witty person, like, shows up.
Right, he yells at the witty person.
Yeah, exactly. So, I don't know. It made me want to go back. It's sort of like when we covered that fucking movie with Powers Booth and Rutger Hauer.
Oh, right,
the Egg
yeah.
movie. Where it's like hot, sexy, young Powers Booth. And you're like, huh. Yeah, I guess there
was
is
a time.
something.
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. I guess he is capable of that. I guess Stacy Keach can be silly. Why not? I mean, Class of 1999, like, there was no way he saw that wig and was like, this is a serious film and a serious performance, so it makes sense.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think if I have anything else to say. I guess I can't stress enough how, like, well crafted this movie was. The part where he's in the back of the meat truck is like genuinely creepy. There's all the swinging bodies, so you're kind of looking at him going like, is there going to be like, is the murderer in there? Is this movement a swinging meat, or is it a
Those two are framed at the end of the Hall of Meat for the entire time. Before, like, you can tell
before it occurs to you, yeah.
Right, you can tell that that's the focal point that he's moving toward, and we don't know anything until he mentions that, oh, the truck is too heavy. I have too many sides of meat in here.
Right. And I'm sure this movie is copying off of other movies, but again, like the 360 shot, same year as Evil Dead, and I'm sure there were movies before it that's done that shot. But this is like a movie that, like, if I was directing a horror film, I would go back and watch for ideas. That's what's surprising about it to me, where it doesn't feel like just some like cheesy 80s. Like we covered like the Cars That Ate Paris, where it's like kind of a trashy 80s, where it's like some good ideas, but generally kind of weird and like
surreal, but not in an effective way, in the way that this movie is effective. Like this, it's just so creepy. Like we keep saying eerie, but that's the word.
It has like modern sensibilities. It has like stuff where I'm like, I could see this being in like an A24 horror movie.
Yeah,
them pulling this type of sequence.
The 360 shots, It Follows.
Yeah, exactly. Like there's just parts of this that it's again, the lightning shots, there's some stuff in this. Again, I'm not saying this movie originated it, but if you're a filmmaker who likes horror, it's something to watch, to be inspired. Like, it's some just extremely effective stuff in this, some stuff that genuinely creeped me out.
Yeah,
which is weird to say about a movie from 81. Like, I don't know, I have that feeling where it's like, it's hard to be creeped out by an older movie unless it's a movie that I have nostalgia for. You know what I mean?
It's sort of, in general, it's hard for me to be creeped out by a movie, period, anymore, just because...
Yeah, that's a good point.
I've seen so many horror movies.
Yes.
But, so a lot of it's just mood for me now and vibes and shit, and this one is just spooky. Good spookiness. Like, it's a truck driver hallucinating a murder or hallucinating spirits or something on a long haul. That's just a good idea for spookiness.
Yeah, for sure. Especially like the moment I saw that meat truck, I was like, that's going to be a great set piece if they know to use it, where it's like dangling meat, where it's like at some point he's going to have to hear a noise and go out back and investigate. And like, you're right, this would work for a ghost story too.
Yeah.
A hitchhiking ghost or something like that.
Something like, yeah.
Yeah, they very much like correctly identify what makes these vibes, like what makes them work, what makes a truck driver job being, what makes it kind of mentally perilous, where it's like exhaustion, loneliness, all these little things kind of adding up.
There's a great shot where he's kind of falling asleep and he keeps downshifting and upshifting and the truck is rocking. It's the profile shot of him.
Yeah.
And you're hearing the meat thump against the front.
Yes.
And it stays so long on him shifting and rocking back and forth, and it's like it's kind of pushing in on him. And we're hearing the sound on top of that. So it's like it's both sinister in that noise and in just the style of the shot, and that it's pushing in closer, and it's also this like repetition, like this rocking thing where it's like he's falling asleep and like bleary-eyed, and it just makes it, it's just really spooky.
Yeah, the part where he's listening to the radio talking about the murder, and like it's a shot like it's kind of low looking up at him, and everything around him gets dark, and the radio slowly becomes the only sound, and it's a moment of him realizing, is it me?
It's all describing him.
Yeah, it's very good filmmaking.
It really is. Yeah, I really liked this movie. Goofy ending notwithstanding.
Yeah, directed by Richard Franklin, by the way. Who, again, there wasn't much on his list that I like personally have seen. Maybe he is like a legend, but he made FX2. He made
I remember
Psycho 2.
FX2 with Brian Brown. He's another Australian guy.
He made Phantasm, but not the one you're thinking of. He made a comedy called that. He made Psycho 2. He made something called Patrick, which is about a guy named Patrick. I need to rewatch Psycho 2. I remember the Psycho sequels having some. It's hard. It's hard to follow up on the Psycho. It's hard to make a sequel.
I've never seen them. I guess maybe I should.
So I watched them, and they are. It's one where you watch them and you go like, "No, that was a good idea." It's not Psycho. You know, like every good offer is like, still not Psycho though. So what are we doing?
What are we doing here? Yeah.
Yeah, it takes place 20 years after Norman Bates is released, basically.
Right. I know the premise of it. I've just never watched any of them.
Well, maybe we should. They're fine. I mean, it's Psycho 2, you know? They don't go the direction of, like, Jaws, where it's like, well, if we're making sequels, let's make them stupid.
Put Norman in an amusement park.
Right, like Psycho 2 and
Just
Psycho 3
swimming around
like,
and stabbing people at SeaWorld.
Right. Like, they try a little too hard, I would argue. The Psycho 2 and 3 from my memory, where it's just like, again, it's like, you're not gonna make it as good. Like, I'm sorry.
Well, isn't the premise of 2 like people are starting to get murdered again, and he's like, shit, is it me?
I think so, or maybe that's 3.
And he's trying to solve potentially his own murder mystery.
That sounds a lot like
think
Road
that's
Games.
Psycho 2, yeah.
Yeah, I don't quite remember.
Anyway,
I think he embraces it at some point. He like, I don't know. The third one is, I think that's the love story one, or something. I think there's like a cycle happens. I don't know for sure, but I think there's like this idea of like, he falls for a woman who becomes his mother or something like that. It's been a while since I watched him. I know there's boobs in one of them, which I remember because I was like, that doesn't feel like there should be boobs in a Psycho film. But it's the 80s, so they're like...
Yeah, you got to slap boobs in it.
Yeah, they're like, listen, it's an 80s slasher now. What do you expect?
Right,
Not
you
boobs?
have to both slap boobs in it figuratively and literally slap boobs in it. Like, you need to have
Exactly.
boobs get slapped in the film.
Exactly. Precisely.
Gently, you know what I mean.
Yeah, sure. But yeah, I want to see. This makes me want to watch Psycho 2 again because I'm like, I bet that's well directed. Like, there's a reason this director got Psycho 2. One, probably because everybody else was like, no, I'm not
good.
making Psycho 2.
I'm sorry,
And 2,
what?
because he was
2?
good enough. Yeah. Because like you said, this, I don't know, this has Hitchcock qualities. I want to watch his movie called Patrick is about a comatose man who may have psychokinesis. And I'm like, sure.
Yeah.
I'll see. I'll go on the adventure of Patrick.
Like, this guy could have made like a Hereditary.
Yes. I agree.
Like, the imagery is that strong in some of this.
Yeah. He's super dead. He died in 2007.
Okay.
I mean,
I was gonna
he's
say maybe we should like try to get this guy out of retirement and see if we'll make something else. But man,
Yeah, gonna
we
take
missed
more
that
than that.
window.
yeah. His last movie was 2003's Visitors, which
that
I
one.
do not recognize. Now, it's probably pretty Australian. Seems like he makes, I don't know. Like, I wonder if Psycho 2 was, their version of like, come over here and become a mainstream director. It's got the lady from Silent Hill in it. The main lady.
Oh, Rita Mitchell, I think is her name.
Yeah. Visitors. Let's watch it. He also did
She's
Flatland.
Australian.
Yeah.
It's all checking out. It's all coming together.
He did Flatland with Dennis Hopper. Oh, which I guess is a TV show?
I
What
was
is
so
this?
sure you were about to say Flatliners.
No. What is this? What am I looking at? Flatland with Dennis Hopper in like cool sunglasses. Tom,
Yep.
I'm scared. I'm going to send you the picture of Flatland.
Of Dennis
Sorry.
Hopper in sunglasses. It's probably a safe bet.
There, I'm sending you the picture, the poster for Flatland.
You can do this at
which-
home.
Yeah. Everybody
Look up the
Google
poster for
Flatland.
Oh shit.
What is this? It's like a techno thriller.
The past has not happened yet.
Fuck. That is what it says.
It looks like a Matrix ripoff.
A 4,000-year-old year-long conflict in an alternate universe crosses over into modern-day Shanghai. All right, I'm going to watch this. I'll watch Flatland, the TV show, 22 episodes. At least some of them directed by the guy who made Road Games.
What do we have to lose, man? Nothing.
Nothing. Just our pride and our time. Time is important.
Yeah.
We have so little of it left. Anyway,
I might as well spend it
watching Flatland.
watching Flatlands.
Yeah, why not? I don't know. If you're a horror nerd, watch Road Games.
Seriously,
if
yeah,
you're-
definitely watch this movie.
Yeah, or if you just want a nice thriller to watch, we kind of spoiled it for you.
We did, yeah. It
So
took all the
that's
fun
why
out of it, but
I felt okay spoiling this only because it's like this is a lost movie. It feels like. It's
haven't
well-reviewed, too.
begun to hear about this movie, and I thought I was pretty well versed in the films of Jamie Lee Curtis.
Right. Yeah, this is an interesting time. I was looking at behind the scenes stuff, and they were talking about how Stacey Keach and Jamie Lee Curtis felt kind of like weird because they just got brought into this Australian production, and they felt like the token Yanks, basically.
Well,
Like,
that's what they were.
Yeah, they were. So it's like a different world, right? It's like maybe this is Evil Dead for Australia, right? Maybe Australians listening are like, "Oh, we love Road
Oh, yeah,
Games."
maybe this might very well be a huge, impactful movie in Australia.
Yeah, but it ain't here. But it should have been.
Yeah, it should have been.
I'm
I'm out of things to say about this movie.
Yeah, no, I just like this is a surprisingly good movie. Everybody, if you're into horror, check it out. And thank you to yet another Steven. We have so many Stevens, and this is yet another one.
Thank you, yet another Steven.
Yeah,
There's
thank you
always
so
room
much.
for one more.
Yeah, you're right. There is. Let's cram another Steven in there. Mm-hmm. Fuck it. This was through
This
our
elevator's
Patreon.
not over capacity yet.
Not yet. No. We'll cram some more Stevens until we plummet straight to the bottom.
Yeah.
Patreon.com/gamefullyunemployed. That's how this happened. That's our Patreon. There's exclusive podcasts
That's
on
what's
there.
to blame. Sorry.
Yeah. For $5 a month, you get access to Tom and Jeff Watch Batman, Fox Mulder is a Maniac, Star Trek The Next Futurama, and Spiel Boys. We watch movies every Friday night with our patrons. That's for a little more. You can join us. Road Games is the type of movie we would watch. Also,
And
Cycle
probably
2.
will watch.
Yeah. Yeah, why not? Again, we have so little time left. Let's spend it watching Road Games.
I'm going to get at least one more Road Games in there before I croak, man.
Yeah.
We also have a store. Head over to gamefullyunemployed.com where you can find a link to our Teespring store where we have all kinds of cool original artwork by cool original artists like Michael Vincent Bramley, Starlene Hodge, Justin Brown, and others. So check that out. Rate and review our podcast wherever you're listening to it. Check out our new show, Badical, Badical, wherever you are listening to this podcast. I'm doing new episodes soon, I promise. They're recorded.
Nice.
I just gotta finish them. I think that's all, Dave.
Yeah, I think that's it.
Bye.
Hey, listen, our music is produced by Chris Corlew. You can find him on twitter.com as the Corlew or go to shipwreckedsailor.bandcamp.com. Our channel artwork is produced by Michael Vincent Bramley. For more of his work, go to mvbramley.art. Our episode artwork is by Justin Brown, available on Twitter as Justin T. Brown or at artnessbyjustinbrown.com. And finally, additional artwork is by Starlene Hodge. You can find her work at starlenearts.com or on Twitter as StarleneX. Cool. Goodbye.